Okay. Do you have control?
I have the same control as before. I can't actually interact with the window.
Well, what were you? I see you moving it around.
Yeah, but I'm clicking within the edit control or the text control, and I can't actually get the cursor in there, and I can't send right clicks. So now the cursor is in there. What if I actually type?
I clicked in there just to see if you could start doing stuff, but
I
that
can't
is weird.
send keyboard strokes either. So I can't actually show anything in here.
Oh, hold on 1 second then. Let me just try this. Where in the world?
So because our Zoom meeting probably doesn't have elevated privileges, because I'm coming through that, my messages can't go to elevated controls.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like we've done this plenty of times before and haven't had this issue.
Yeah, you're right.
And I
I'll
didn't
try
change
and,
anything up. There you go.
yeah, whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I actually have the path from the window that Access Viewer is actually finding as the top window, whereas I would believe that you have a window before it. And I found that to be 4 down. So to actually use this, we now need to have the included. I don't know if this actually makes sense compared to wherever you have it, Joe.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't think it's in my main library. However, I have that folder still open where I have it saved.
Yeah,
So we can just pop it over there if we have to.
fair enough. So I'll include the Anc library here.
Mm-hmm.
And to just get an object, let's say object, come on. I'll do this, and then I'll use a function from the Anc library. And to just demonstrate here, have you have it opened recently, Joe? No?
No, I have not. But if you let me grab it real quick. Hold on. So, what did you want to?
Just want to show the actual code within the Anc library.
Oh, you know what? Darn, it must be in my my main library.
Hmm.
There she blows.
There it goes, yeah. Great. So in here, we can find all of the different parts that we need. We need to, let's say, Anc initialize. Let's take that one over to our new text script here. So we'll start by that. And then we need to get, let's say, we want an object. We don't want it from a window. We could have done that if we wanted something that far up. But for this one, I think we'll use the method Anc get that Jethro so nicely made for us back in the day. Let's see where we're at. The reason I'm scrolling this slow is because the scrolling is coming seconds after I've actually done it.
Yeah.
So for this, I'll get there. So we'll get this function Anc get here. And for the command, I could have used a lot of different ones, but I actually want the object here, like so. And the second parameter, if you actually look within the library, is the child path. And the child path in this is this one here. And the path actually needs to be in quotes. I'm not sure it actually needs to be in quotes, but I'm pretty sure it does. And then you have a child ID. For this one, we don't actually have the ID. So we'll put in the Windows title. And for that, we'll go over to, where were we with the Tableau? There, Tableau. And here we'll copy out the title of Tableau. I can't actually copy out the title of Tableau.
Okay. You want the first 2 lines or just the first one?
Just the first one for this one.
Okay, it's on the clipboard.
So, come on, shift over.
I'll bring it back. I don't know. This is weird.
Yeah. So here I'll copy in this, and we don't actually need any more parameters. This is then a function call, so we need to have it in quotes, and then we'll finish it, because the rest of them are optional parameters, so we don't actually need to fill them out. So that's the ground of it, and this should then return an Anc object for us. This shouldn't give any errors of any kind, but if we then wanted, let's say, the name, like this one, which we can see is in the name, let's try and do that immediately before actually testing this, just to see if we are still okay. So put that there. I'll put in a message box for us to actually see. Is it getting through? It is. Good. Just make sure. And then I believe that it's stored under Anc name. Does that come through? Yeah, like so. Let's see if I remembered everything correctly. So now if I click here, I need to store it with some Anc text test thing. And we'll run that. And it's erroring out because included file cannot be opened. For some whatever reason, it's not in that spot.
But I mean, we just saw that's where I accessed it. Here, just let me do it. I got it. Because we're in there, right? So do that. Okay.
Yeah, that should at least make sure that that was working. I'll try and rerun it.
I think it might be behind that, right?
I think we have a message box somewhere.
We do, but it's blank.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so the reason it's blank can be a few things. Let's try and put in 0 here as what we are actually trying to get.
The first thing I typically do, this is just discussion, right, is when I come up with something like this, is I'd make sure that object on line 4 is I'm returning an object, because so often I waste so much time with I just do a message box is object on that, because that's where my biggest error is like the thing I'm actually trying to access is not an object. I did something wrong up ahead.
So it's not an object. So something is not being returned correctly. And whatever that might be, I'm unsure what we are at here.
I'm gonna look on my laptop. So I'm with you. But I did some stuff with the ACC with Tableau, so I could probably pull up an example. I wasn't accessing the object, so I'm interested in how you're doing that. But I should have something that's a working case, similar enough.
Fair enough. I'd say that without really knowing what's at stake here, I'm unsure what's missing from this. The ank get object, the for, that should also be okay. I don't really see the issue apparently, or the issue is not apparent to me. Then it should be the child ID that was not correct. I'll start by, let's say, removing. It should be an object if the ank get actually didn't fail. So apparently that is failing first. So I'm pretty sure the 4 is correct. But for some reason, this here isn't actually giving us what we need. Ank initialized, that should be enough compared to what we have over here. Yeah, we could get the object from whatever we have over here that's not needed. No, no. Ank state node, ank role, children, no. Location, no. Not the role. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the ank, the child ID is set to 0. That's correct as well. Is object win title. Win title. The win title isn't an object, no. And it's calling, that should be correct as well. Let's check the error level then. See what it's saying. That's weird. Like so. Let's see if it's actually telling us anything. And I'm glad to hear whatever you have to say, Joe.
No,
not implemented.
I was trying to find my example, and I don't see it right away. The problem is I've worked in a couple different places, and it's been a 3 weeks or a month now.
Didn't I spell object correctly? Let's try and get the name then.
Yeah, that's actually, I was going to say, those are the examples I was first playing with.
That wasn't supposed to be just a line like that. Just too used to actually using that hotkey.
There it goes.
So there it goes. So that was usable, but normally I have used this to actually return the object.
And just to, sorry, but let me show one thing so people aren't using this because, oh, here it is down here. Because it says object down here, right? That's why you're thinking that path is an object, correct?
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that they're all in bold on the ACC structure, if I remember right, everything in bold are objects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And normally I would have expected it, but I might actually need, did I manage to actually test it with object in capitalized? That might actually be something. Let me just test. Go away. That's still 0. So for some reason, I don't know which version of the library you actually have, Joe, but to me, that should actually return an object here.
Okay. It could be because I found when this was like a month ago when I had talked to you about it, right? And I was looking around and I found a bunch of different posts. In some stuff I'd see later, they didn't go back and update the original. Someone would say, "Oh, hey, I updated this function," or I added these couple functions, and I tried putting them in there. And so it could be that my version is not as good as your version is, or it's different, or yeah.
Because it's at least saying that it's not implemented, and that's its own error text. So that must be what it is. It is implemented on mine, but yeah, that's just how that is.
So after you returned that object, then you would access the. Why didn't you just use the name like you did in that where you switched it to name?
Let's say I actually wanted to do stuff with this thing after checking the name. So if I had object here and I actually had an object that was returned, and I wanted to, let's say, click on that element when I knew that its name was, what is it, GEND, grind, then I could do stuff like do default action.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm actually hitting the right keys.
Here's a FAU, right?
Come on. Yeah, something like that at least.
Okay. That would trigger. Yeah.
That would then trigger that object's normal action. And as you can see down here, what it knows itself is that would be a toggle, whatever a toggle is for that one. It doesn't always work, but let's say it was a button. A button's normal action would be to be clicked. A tab's normal action would be to be activated. Stuff like that. So an edit control's normal action would be to become active or whatever. And that's what you can use this for.
I see Cat Bowden posted some syntax.
If command lee object, yeah. Is that in your own one, Captain, or what? Because I didn't actually see it. If command, yeah. I'm not seeing it in this one. No.
It's in his.
It's fine. Yeah, just like my own.
Yeah.
So normally the object part here would actually be available in the newest version, at least.
Which is something we should bring up, right? Is that the ACC stuff it's going away in the sense of there's the automation, IA automation, something like that, right?
UE automation, yeah. Exactly.
But from what I've seen, I couldn't find any sort of a tool like this excessive build info viewer to make it easy to go find the parameters and all the information about it, which is why I was still using this. And more often than not, it can work.
It's still built into a different stuff like C#, as you said yourself. This is a default way of actually structuring it. So if the program is made with C#, this would be accessible. And the same with the old COM programs and stuff like that will also have this still. But it is something that's just there because of whatever compatibility. It's not something new programs are built to support. It's just the language already supports it, so it's still there as long as it lasts. But we won't be able to use it indefinitely because at one point, too many programs probably won't support it anymore because new things has been added instead. But yeah, one of our great contributors, Jethro, who was the one who made large parts of this, I know he didn't make it all, but he made a good fair amount of it, at least for the viewer and stuff. I think it was Sheen or someone like that actually made the groundwork with all of the del calls and stuff. But we don't actually have those people around anymore. So, and I know that Jethro, just before he kind of became inactive, was looking into the UI automation stuff, but he didn't actually finish whatever work he had started. And no one has picked up where he left off. But it would have been a great addition to the AutoHotkey toolkit, might be the right word of saying. I don't know, did we actually get into this enough, Joe? We got the name, we got the text from
Well, yeah, I think we got into it enough with given what we have. The problem, unless you want to send me your file real quick, and I'll swap mine out, or we drive on yours and you just pick a different program. I'm also going to unmute everybody and then turn it back on, but you can unmute yourselves if anybody wants to. So bear with me here. So unmute all, and then mute all. This time you can unmute yourself. Jackie, I just unmuted you. Okay. So now if anyone wants to start asking questions or talk or whatever, you can unmute yourself and jabber away.
Yeah, and please do.
Yeah. Do you want to send me your file real quick, Jackie? Or
yeah, I'm putting it in,
awesome.
in the Dropbox now. Should be in there. It's saying that it's updated at least.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I know it's a tiny file, right? That's why I love AutoHotkey for that.
Yeah, yeah. 5 kilobytes or something like that.
Is it in the main folder?
Yeah, it's right above the folders.
Got it. I'm just going to go ahead and overwrite mine just because, why not?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. And I'm going to minimize that, close that, like that, here.
Which version did I actually give you? Truly unsure right now.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I just tried to run it, and it says non-existent function.
This one is even older than the one you're using. Okay, so that's where did I actually find that one? That one was the one in my main folder. That's no. Oh, let me just try and look again. That's weird. Why am I seeing it this way? That should have been the right one. But this one doesn't even have the get one. Interesting. I must have done something with my backup for this one.
Yeah, I worked through the whole the main post and saw, I forget who the other contributor was, but they added a few more functions and changed some things, and I tried incorporating them into mine, and it was a mess.
Yeah, I'll I found the newest version I had here. It's because I actually have put the correct one in my library folder. So I'm used to just having access to the right one. So that's probably what's wrong. Copy to here. Now I'm actually figuring if I actually got the right one this time. Should be the right one.
I was just looking at Cat Mode's comment of saying about, yeah, eventually it may disappear, but it probably stick around for a while. Did I see that file update?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's the right one.
Okay. Okay, well that's fine. Right, let's. There. All right, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. So now that was added in.
Okay,
And
go ahead and start working.
do default action, I think it's called. Let's try with that one. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just.
And that was going to toggle is what you saw from the viewer, right?
Yeah, I would like to know what actually happens when I'm trying to get to the front of this line. Come on, move.
You're there.
Yeah, it's needs to update both ways. I can't remember if this is actually like so. No, I think it's just do default action. Can't remember. But what we need to do is in Tableau over here, if you actually click on this, what actually happens is just becomes
Highlighted.
selected
Yeah.
or what? Yeah, okay.
Looks like it, yeah.
So if I go to here, say do default action, what it should do is it should actually
Highlight it.
select it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I run this, it will give me an error. Do default action probably used it incorrectly. I can't remember if I actually have anything where I have that. Most of this stuff is on my work computers. I'm just looking for some place where I have it. Come on. Go find it. I can't remember if it actually needs anything in front, and it's actually not in the Angular library. You won't find it in here because it's not in here. It's a property of the object.
Right.
Most of the time, stuff you do actually starts with the ACC, so it might also do that with the do default action. I just can't remember if it actually does. I was hoping action do default. Do action, do default action. That might be the one we are for. Okay.
It is, and then it is do ACC, do default action, and then that's. Oh, I see. That's in a function that somebody else, this Firefox one, wrote, but I do see it with the ACC in front of it in the examples I'm looking at.
So let's try it with that and see if it errors out. It actually didn't error out, so it's not complaining in that manner.
Oh, look at that.
It
highlighted both. That's interesting.
Yeah, so apparently you can multi-select.
Neat.
You can control down.
Neat.
So yeah, it is working. That's the reason I would normally return the object, because the object would be like whatever element on a web page, and then you would take whatever info you needed from it, and if you actually needed to act on it, you would be able to here I would call this maybe a click. Here it's actually called a toggle, which is probably more correct. But that's the general idea. But this, as I know it, is the only action you can actually do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can maybe focus on stuff or select to it, but you can't really do much else but the default action. Not that I know of, or at least it needs to be programmed in some way, but that's not.
But again, so like in my case, let's say here, let's say even though we couldn't get the text of these, let's say we still could get the location, and if the default action is to actually click it, that's, hey, you know what, that's awesome, because I know there's no way for me to search on my other file. It's with actually for my client stuff, so I don't want to share it, but I had over 100 tabs.
Yeah.
And
so if let's say we go to age group here, we go to that one. I still believe that this is a window.
Well, the fact it's not numbered, right? Doesn't that mean it's the parent?
Yeah, but if I click this, you can see it isn't actually the parent.
Yeah.
It's an inner window, and as I showed you before, that if you actually go up here and ask for the parent of that one, and that is the one that I showed you over here. That is the one where we put this 4.1. And if the window is even more sectioned out or sectioned down, which it can be, then you might need even more before the start. But it's just because this is easier than actually moving down the controls within the window. You could easily enough over in Tableau probably take, let's say, Windows Spy. Do you have that?
It's not running right now.
Yeah, it is there, right?
Oh, I thought you meant the WinSpectre Spy. Yeah.
Yeah. If you put that over this window somewhere, just where my mouse is at or something like that. Oh, minimize the window. But yeah, let's say it had an inner control, an inner class NN or something like that. Then you could have used that to figure out or to start at a lower level within the window. But for this example, I don't think that's needed. It's better to know how to find the top level window and then move down the hierarchy from that.
Can you answer one other thing that interests me? Is the path that shows up here? Is that actually like the dot notation, like objects, or is it? Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that it is. It is. Let's say you could also go in. I'm trying to shift to another window here. Yeah, there. So if you went in and instead of letting the get library or function do it all for you, you could instead start with, let's say, get object from window, like this one. You would take the object or the ID of the window by using whatever method you would do, winExist, winWait, one of those. And then you could get an accessible object from the main window. And then from there on, you could go down and you could use, let's say, where is it at? Child here, this function here. And that you would then say, you would put in the object of the main window there. And here you would put in the ID. And the ID for the first child would then be 1. And then you would take the returned value of that, put into this function again, and then put in the ID of 6. And then the returned value of that you would put in again.
Okay, I'm with you.
ID of that too. So, but the function is doing that for you instead.
Right.
Get function. It allows you to simply in child path here put in a string of dot separated values. By that, actually making it access the child that you want. one go instead. I think it's looping over it here. You see it's phrasing the child path by a dot there. And then it's trying to look for all of them, and then it's getting the children from the object and moving and checking different parts of it, and then returning in the end whatever it was, whatever you asked for. So that's what the ANK get is actually doing. It's just a collection of all of the other functions to make it a little easier for you to actually access subparts of Windows. So yeah, that is the general idea of this path out there.
Click on that show more button too, just so while we're here, we'll show people there are some other, that description sometimes is populated, I've noticed.
Yeah,
I don't know what's under keyboard.
Yeah, it's the shortcut. If
okay.
Add a specific shortcut, let's say this one actually has a shortcut. This the play F5. One. Let's see, it might or might not be there. It depends on if it's an accessible info. But sometimes it's there. For this one, it wasn't. It's put somewhere else, but it could be an accessible information. Some buttons and some other stuff will actually have the keyboard shortcut information.
Well, the fact that's not a site thing, right? That's the AutoHotkey for stuff built, the toolbar for it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if we did one that was the open or copy, that's it might have the hotkey.
Let's say you had something written by Microsoft.
The first one's PowerPoint. The very top one was PowerPoint. Yeah.
The very first one is PowerPoint. Let's say one of these had an actual hotkey like this one, Control-2, undo cut. If we take this one and pull over it like so, you might see it turn up. Yeah, that's the same. I haven't seen the keyboard part of it being populated very often, and I can't say why, but there could be a reason for that, but I don't know. See, there you have one for the push button in the toolbar there, where it's actually populated, Control+N. That's something out there.
Yeah.
And again, for each time we actually take one of these, Control-O is there as well. This one, button, Control-S or Alt-1. That's the save. Control-S. Most people know that one. So that's what the keyboard one holds. So if that could be useful as well if you for some reason had a program where you don't know if people have changed the keyboard shortcut, that might be there. I can't say. I've never really used it, but it's there. And again, sometimes the name of the control or the text of it is in save, but if it's an edit control of some kind, it would most likely be in the value.
And that was the one I had asked you about, and you, because you gave me some code, but you're like, oh yeah, you have to first, I think you were saying I had to get the object first and then get the name. Was it the name? No, it was the value. Remember, I thought I could just put in value and it would return it back to me, but I think you were saying I had to first get the...
No, name and value, you can do that. But for the role and the state, as an example, you actually need to use, because those are integers. Those are just, if you ask for the role of this object here, you'll most likely just get a number. So if I say ANK role, like so, I actually hit that right. That's good. And set a message box for that. I'll just see a number. Let's say like this, and play. And for this one, it's actually erroring out. So whatever reason, ANK role is probably not right. It might need to be like so. Let's see if that works. Still the same error. For some reason, that's not working. Maybe I need to actually have a 0 in there. Yeah, so there you got the number. So its role, this object's role is 36.
Perfect.
That's not very useful
Yeah.
per se,
Right.
but the Anc library has what you need to actually get the readable text by Anc role here. That wouldn't actually give you anything else but what you just got, the number. But we also have, I don't know where they are here somewhere. Maybe more to the top. There's a get role text or something like that.
Get state text, get role text.
Yeah, there. So
Awesome.
these functions can then be used instead. So you would do the same thing. You still want the number.
I need that first. Yeah.
So you would
wrap it. Yeah.
Do like that. And then let's check the parameters to be sure. Just the number role. So you don't actually need to pass all of this if you don't want to, but normally that's the dynamic way of doing it. So now we'll instead get push button returned. Now outline item, is that actually, oh yeah, this is not the same one. So fair enough. That is
right. We're on the Tableau and that, yeah. Cool.
You could, instead of having all of this fanciness here, you could just put in 36. That would give you the same result. It's just.
Where is that pulling that from, though?
If you look here in the Anc library, it's making a del call here down to actually get it. So it's.
But get it from inside Tableau that's saved somewhere. It's a constant that's been mapped out.
No, you could say that, but this one here, the active accessibility part of it, already knows what it is. That's like we are used to seeing with our controls. When we say we want a button control, it's a button control. Windows knows this. These are put in memory, so to speak, and the Anc library knows where to actually look in memory to get this information, and that's what's done with these del calls here.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then probably that's what you're seeing overall. Yeah. And
awesome.
It's actually been made ready for Unicode, which is a good thing. So yeah. Okay, I don't know. I don't have any more.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anybody have any specific questions or input? Was this crazy? Obviously, it's you know, some of the stuff is a lot easier than others, right? And this ACC library type stuff, to me, it's my last resort. At the same time, if it still will enable me to do stuff that I couldn't do any other way, then I'll use it.
It is one of those where if I can't access it through the info viewer, the normal Windows info viewer, or let's say the COM info viewer of some kind, or can't find anything else, then the accessible info part of it is a quick way to check if that's an access point. And half the time I find that this can actually be used, and other times just plain out of luck. So.
Can you guys tell me again where the 4.1, 0.5, 0.6, where that came from?
Yeah, this one up here. So if we go to Tableau, just to see, that's where we got this from. When I actually make it shift window. So here, if I pull this crosshair here to the thing I want to know anything about, here it's this one. The fast way of actually finding it is it puts it down here. The path comes here at the bottom.
Oh.
And if you want to know what the path actually is made up of, you can use the Anch structure here and see that first it's the 1, that's the client, and the 5, that's the 5th child under that. Here it's also a client. And then the 6th child under that is again a client, and so on and so forth. So the 2nd under that. And so that's what this path is actually describing. What I'm then talking about is that this one here, if you just try and load that into your Anch get here, if I remove the first 4 and then just work on the exact path that it gave me, I can't be sure to actually get the object that I want. Let's try it and see what it actually does. Here I'm getting it, and if you look at Tableau and you look up here, it's telling us that this window up here actually has that name, that title, and so on and so forth. So for this window, in this instant, it will work because that is actually the name of the control. So AutoHotkey will make it work for you. So that's what the idea of this path is.
The other thing, let me drive for a second, Jackie, is that I find interesting and convenient is I can come in here and do like he's saying, but after I click that, and this by the way is dynamic, right? But it I can then start clicking around. Let me see if I can get to one that, there we go. So see how it's updating on the left for me? And so it works both ways. I can drag and bring it over, or I can sit here from this view and make sure I get exactly where I want it to be.
Very nice.
It can be a great tool to have. The only thing one might or could have an interest in knowing is that if you're used to COM like myself and working with, let's say, web pages and stuff like that, if you actually return an element like, let's say, a text element or an input element or something else, I have access to almost all actions with that element, where here I have a very limited amount of stuff I can do because this interface is actually only made for Windows readers. So it's only meant to be able to get access to the text so it can read it to the user. It's not actually meant to be able to click menus or access different parts of a control. So but that's again, it's just if you're used to something where you can do it and somewhere some things where you can't.
So and see, this is really interesting to me. You know how, Jackie, we couldn't get the text down here, right, of these tabs, yet from the I remember that they were up, they're also here, right? Yeah. These are the tabs down below. And here I can still see the name is populating here.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing with Tableau,
click those because their default action is press.
Yeah. And but which is awesome, right? What you're saying. In the example, which I can't show because of the data, but I had over 100 tabs. There is no way to search for the titles, right? To just even know what they are and to show them. Right, and it's really annoying. Where I'd like to know, just like, what are the texts? What is? Do I have one called this? You know, and then I'll just what order number. But to your point, not just the order number. Go ahead and go click it. Right. That is like I will build that into this because it's a pain in the butt. And you're like, there's 100 tabs, and I'm searching, eyeballing, looking around, and it's just ridiculous. So the fact that I can just think outside the box when you're doing it, right? Is there other ways to get to what you're trying to get to?
Yeah, that's one of those that will actually make you able to do quite a bit more with your AutoHotkey knowledge. Is just the ability to kind of think, hey, I can't do it this way. Maybe there's another way. And one of the things that I often do is the interest I currently have, which might be for some more advanced or whatever, is sometimes a little limiting because I might use, let's say, an hour extra on trying to make that work, instead of just saying, hey, if I just used the ability I had earlier before,
Yeah.
and let's say send a control click instead of trying to send a message to whatever, that might have worked out the box. And if the control click didn't work, maybe I could have found the coordinates of whatever it was and actually moved the mouse to it, because maybe the window didn't actually need to be hidden or whatever it might be. It's just always a good idea to be able to think out the box.
Which also, because Jackie, you brought that up, was that here, it is showing the location, right, of that thing. So I could also, even if I couldn't say do the default thing and click the item, I might be able to figure out where it actually is and send a click, to that location.
Yeah, because you could still get, if you had worked with this one before, you knew where whatever tab was at any kind of point. It was the 26th child of this list. Then you could ask for the location of the 26th child and then click it. One thing to be, one thing to know about these locations here is that when Jethro made this, the default way of actually doing coordinates in AutoHotkey was full screen coordinates, whereas it has later been reviewed and is now default to relative. So you need to convert whatever it's returning, because the Ank library won't convert it for you. So if you are using, and that's the smart thing to do, the actual client or relative locations or coordinates within the window, you need to convert whatever the Ank library is actually returning to you. But hey, there's a del call for that as well. So you can look it up on the forum somewhere, and someone will have posted an example of doing just that.
And to your point earlier, so like one of the other things that drove me nuts is my client wanted me to change the font size of all the graphs, and it is just a pain to do that. You have to come in here and click this and click font and click down here, and it's just ridiculous. And so that's what I was trying to automate some of the stuff to make it. So to your point, Jack, I was trying to use this library to do it, and I finally just said, you know what, I'm going to send keystrokes, because I didn't have access to any controls. I couldn't read anything, but the GUI always stayed in the same spot, and so I finally just said, you know what, I'm going to do that, send tabs and click, and it worked. It wasn't ideal, but it worked.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just working backwards. Most people have started, at least most people who didn't have any prior knowledge who started with AutoHotkey, started with, let's say, recording their own action and then just replaying that. Or maybe they started by working with the clipboard or something like that. Very basic stuff maybe. And as you learn more, you don't necessarily forget what you used to use, but you kind of push it to the back of your mind and try and use the new and smarter way of doing it. But that's not always the most productive way of doing it.
Yeah,
might be the right way of putting it.
Which that was one of the things I covered in the last webinar, was the whole approach of really think through, like, are you really going to only use this one time, or is this something that's going to come up often over and over again?
Mm.
And more often than not, it really does. You just don't realize it. That, man, I could have if I had spent a little more time up front and solved how to use this library in the beginning, I can use it in so many different ways later, and it's just an investment, right?
Yeah, I would say some of the things that I make is most of the time for other people. And when it is for other people, I tend to go with the one that gives me the most reliability.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
to do that, yeah, these more advanced methods is the way to go, because sending keystrokes and mouse moves and stuff like that when the script is running on someone else's computer who doesn't have, I'm not saying the knowledge for it, but they don't have that, um, they ain't the one who built it, so they don't know exactly how to act while it's running. So if it's moving the mouse around, clicking here and clicking there, and they've been watching that for 2 minutes, it feels like an hour for them, and they think, hey, it's only working on that one screen. I can probably work on the other screen. And they simply can't. And then it fucks up, and then their computer goes haywire, and they blame you or whatever. So yeah,
This
always.
this Jackie was the general outline I put together. I can't remember if we discussed it or not, but it was, this is my thought process when I have something to work on, right? Am I behind a time crunch? Does it have to get done in the next hour? Okay, I might write something that takes me 5 minutes that's gonna speed up things, sure. But then I'm like, this is a really, really important one. Is it really going to be a one-time thing? Because more often than not, it's not. You can reuse it later. And then to Jackie's point, is it going to be run on multiple computers, not just this one computer? What are the different operating systems? Are different users? That's such a critical one, as Jackie's saying, especially if they're not scripting people. That is just, yeah, you really got to make things foolproof. What are the other software running on those other computers? Do you have different bitness you're using, right? Those are all things I put into there. And then I start thinking about, well, what is the previous code I've written? And I'll go search. I always search the forum, probably Stack Overflow. I might, depending on the topic, I might ping Jackie or ping someone and just say, hey, have you ever solved this thing? Because no one wants to invent the wheel from scratch, right? And if they've done something that's close, it can save you a ton of time. And then, depending on as long as I'm not under a serious time crunch, I'll do a little bit of work, but I might just post something to one of the forum, social media places. And so one is directly contacting your friend, a close friend that that codes, but the second one's just kind of putting it out there. Has anybody solved this? And that's my process that I try to go through in how I decide what I'm going to do and develop code.
Yeah, and I actually like the last one as well. Program to their level. Yeah, if you can, if you're not the one at the lowest level.
If they're going to be, like Jackie, I remember this is years ago now, but Jackie he'd help me on the forum, and his solutions were, beautiful. But for me at the time, I couldn't follow the way he used like a while command and creating variables in one line and doing other stuff. And I'm like, I get lost in this, which isn't even the thing he was solving for me. He was solving something down here. And it was just one of those things of like, as much as this is the most efficient way to do it, if the people you're going to help aren't at that level, it can cause more problems than, if they're going to be actually diving into the code and stuff, sometimes it's easier I'll just use a loop, right? And I'll keep it simple.
Yeah, and I'd say that's probably also been one of the issues with the AutoHotkey forums at times, that it has these trends, you might call it, where either all of the new users are asking about the same thing, or all of the helping users are at a specific level above new users. And when you have either people competing to answer the same question, their code might get more and more involved or get smaller and smaller to challenge themselves, because a lot of people actually answer these questions to kind of work with AutoHotkey for whatever level they are at. And if they see someone asking a question and they think, hey, I can solve that, or that could be challenging, let me see if I can solve that, and they solve it and they post the whatever way they actually solved it, they might totally miss what the poster actually
Original. Yeah.
asked for,
Yeah.
because whatever they did might have gone down through that path and that path and this path, and then they found a solution that actually solved it, but the user who's supposed to use it, he can copy paste it and use it, but he has absolutely no idea of what's actually what.
Which is another important thing to factor in, like you're saying, Jackie, is like if you're doing something for a client, right? Or especially like, let's say, because I used to pay Jackie at times, and I still would if we're doing stuff. But if he's doing something and he's helping me, and then basically he's going to be on the hook now, right? Where I'm like, what in the world did you do? You know, like I'm trying to do this, right? Just remember, if you want to not have people come back to you over and over and over, unless that's what your goal is, right? You program to their level. By the way, did you see Cap Moden saying, Jackie, in the chat here?
Yeah, you can sometimes get more reliable results in Ank if you use the control names instead of the number in the path.
So I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, you can use a dot notation instead of numbers. You can actually use the name of them instead. That's correct. I haven't used it much because the Ank brewer makes it so accessible to just use the numbered path. But
so
yeah.
what would the name, just so I can understand, can you give a quick example of what where I'm in the wrong folder here, darn it. The name control names, where is the control names I'd be grabbing from?
It would still be the name, the actual name, and then if there's more of them, you would put a number behind it.
In well, so when you say name, you mean like detail?
What I meant was the type, what you see in the structure there.
Yeah, the client.
Oh, okay.
So
thank you. All right.
You would say the fifth client in under some other control.
So similar how like in the DOM with web scraping, you can say this class 6 class name or whatever. But
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, I could see how. I mean, even for me, at least, if I was doing a lot of stuff and I knew that was my base, that could help me kind of visualize where I am and what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm also thinking that if the window is truly dynamic, and you have controls and stuff coming in between each other, or stuff opening and becoming visible and other things like that, these things can probably move around.
Yeah.
So if you have a client and you need the fifth client, and for some reason there's a separator or push button or something else that is actually appears between the clients or whatever it might be. Yeah, I'm sure that could be a more reliable way of doing it.
Cool. So,
but the names change with your language, so that's a problem as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I meant to mention that earlier. I saw your post about that having to do with the. Did you say the location? Is that what it was? The OS?
I'm actually not sure, but I think it's the language you installed first or something. Maybe it's the default one. I don't know. I haven't tested it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where you have client on yours, I would also have client on mine, but spelled with a K, or because it's in Danish, as an example. Something like that. You would have all of these accessible values would instead be in whatever, let's say, native language or the OS's main language or whatever it is. I think, as Odin said, I don't think you can actually change it by changing your OS currently used language. I don't think that's enough. But it might be. I haven't tested it, so.
I'll just change mine to Russian and then never be able to change it back, right?
Yeah, then you'll be forced to just use the path. Yeah. And,
but in that way, yeah, sorry. But that would be an argument for using the numbers over it, right? Because those will stay consistent.
Yeah. In that manner, for me, if I'm writing something on the form for a program, it would be more, internationally safe to just use the numbers. Yeah.
But I'm curious here, just so I can picture it. I would put, like, in here, I would put client somewhere in there, or I would start from client, like that. Is that something like that? I don't care that it matches up.
No, you still need it to match the structure. I just can't remember if the number is before or after. I haven't used it in a long time. Can you remember that, Captain?
I think it's after, but it's a long time as well since.
Okay. Cool.
After seems more correct. Reading wise.
Yeah, that just ran. So,
Yeah.
I'm thinking if I try it the other way,
Probably won't.
The test you're doing there, I don't think you can. You don't really test anything, I believe. You just.
No, you're just seeing
yeah,
the,
sorry. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm glad you noticed that.
.enc role. Yeah, you can also do that.
So no, I just threw that client in there out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, that's because you can't get the role text of an object. You need a number. So you need to have the object under have .enc role. If I still have control.
Yeah, so get
here.
role is what you're saying? Type get role? Oh.
Like so. 0, so. Like that. Try it like that, Joe. Oh, you need the number up here on the client.
I was typing 2. There's 2 C's at the beginning.
Nice.
Yep.
Like so. That's still an unknown object, which is kind of weird.
6, 7. Oh yeah, I would imagine that's a client. I mean, we're under 7.
That's because whatever. Let's try with the 4. I think that was what you were talking about, Captain, earlier, right? With us having something down here that wasn't actually making sense. For whatever reason, we are not getting what we were earlier, correct?
Yeah, I don't recall if that's even.
That's an unknown object. That shouldn't be.
Why don't you borrow the path that's there right now? Because I don't know if
Then it should be a client, right?
I don't know. Oh.
Yeah, that at least worked. The other one might not be viewable anymore. No, that's why we're getting unknown.
Right. Yeah. Which gets back into how those things change. right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's still working. So if we instead said that the 2 here had client in front of it,
Mm-hmm.
like so, that should still give us client as that it did not. So if client is after, that should then do it. No,
And there's no brackets or anything?
nah, I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. Can't remember. No.
That's all right.
Normally, I'd say it would work, but it might be, as you said, it doesn't. Do I need to? I don't know. Why did I lose focus there?
I tried to hit mute. I missed it. Anyway, sorry. I was trying not to cough on everybody.
I don't know if you need to do it like a normal object. So this would be client, and then like that. Or
Click?
is that weird?
Or a
Up and
client?
click. Yeah, that's old habit.
No.
Probably not gonna work. No. Yeah, it was just another test.
Yeah, that's okay. Interesting. Yeah, I would not have suspected that you could mix
Yeah, I've
those.
seen it before, so yeah, you can do it. It's just a matter of whatever format it needs to have. If we go and look here, we can probably deduct it from the library somehow. I'll just move that away. The ank get here. If string replace child path, blah, blah, blah. Remove those with a space for all. So that might need to be in there or what? I don't see why that's there. So it removes all underscores from the child path and replaces it with a space. Then it phrases it all by the dots. It tries if loop field is a digit, else it is number and letters. Am I not reading that?
The first one's not. It's not a digit, right? That's the
Okay.
capitals inverse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's the other way around. So it should be the text first and the number after.
With nothing in between.
No, not in the way this is put at least. But again, not digits. Doesn't that cover spaces?
Oh.
I think, and it's replacing underscores with a space. So I'm thinking that maybe if we put in, let's say, client underscore 2, like so. Let's see if that works. No.
Well, cat mode and posted something. I don't know what it is, but it's something.
Okay.
Oh, I see. He's just throwing in the number. Oh, then you're right.
Yeah, the object it just goes. But hey, it might not actually be in a client. The 2 is actually a border. So that's what we're hitting our heads on here. So as you can see there, it's actually a border.
Well, that no isn't because
We're
it's
testing the one that's.
It was 412, wasn't it? Not 42. So you got to expand the
1.
Oh, I'm
and the
sorry.
2,
I'm sorry. I see it now. Yeah.
And the 1. Isn't it? Haven't I spelled that correctly? Border.
Yes.
Weird that this isn't working then. Yeah, because application.
Jackie,
Yeah.
it's just the first border, so we don't need the number.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's of course.
Oh.
It's so slow to react. So clicking and clicking and clicking, and then it acts. Yeah. Okay. That of course works. So I could probably put in the number as well, but just put in a 1.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would of course be totally different from using the numbers, because you would then actually have to say at a 1 based instead of whatever child index it had, you would have to say whatever tag number it had. If that makes sense to you, Joe. I don't know if it does. It did to me.
I think so. I got it. That's interesting. I mean, I rarely do stuff outside of in English, so it wouldn't be I wouldn't have that issue. At least not that often. But it's a cool way to. You know what it is when I come back and look at something I worked on before, this would be much easier for me to understand what I had done. Right? I'd have a chance with a look at it and interpreting it. Instead of just all numbers, I'd be like, okay, I grabbed a path down to this thing.
Yeah. Some find the text to be clearer, at least. So whatever you fancy might be the way to do it. Again, I've gotten so used to the numbers, so
Yeah.
I'll probably continue using those. But again, the text also makes a lot of sense, and it can clear up the actual path when other people are reading it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So I think both things are actually quite useful. It's getting a bit late for me here, Joe.
Yeah, I'm sure for both you guys. I don't know about Dale and Bill, but awesome.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Sure is.
Well, thank you guys. Well, there wasn't much in the deck, so I mean, I'll still send out a link to it, but we'll have the recordings posted later, either tonight or tomorrow. And thank you. Our next one we were talking about was probably doing web scraping, which is a really fun, huge topic, but hopefully that is interested to some of you guys. And we thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good night to you also.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.